recording.
All right, welcome everyone. How to overcome the top 10 codes keeping you from writing your book. I'm sure you're all anxious to know what the codes stand for, but you will. I am Andrea Susan Glass, and I'm one of your hosts for today's webinar.
And I'm Trevor Singleton. So for those of you who don't know, Andrea is a best-selling author of Your Fabulous First Book and the companion of My Fabulous First Book. And so we want to thank you for attending. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, let me ask you a question. Is there a book you're thinking about that's inside of you that hasn't come out yet? Now, did you know that 81% of people polled say they want to write a book, but only 1% ever do? Now, the question is, how do you become among the 1%? Now, we know you want to write a book, yet you're stuck somewhere along the path. And that's why you're here with us, to find out what it is that's keeping you from that goal of writing your book. So, two things we're going to do. First, we'll share the most common reasons why you may not have written your book. And second, we're going to offer solutions that have worked for us and our clients. What we're sharing today is going to be a powerful catalyst for you to start writing your book. Now, make sure that you stay aware, make sure that you stay tuned. We have a special offer that you don't want to miss. Andrea?
Yeah, we reminded you at the beginning that you can use the chat for asking questions. So while we go through the webinar, if something comes up, please post it in the chat so that you don't get stuck with a thought. Also, we'll be asking you specific questions for you to get engaged in what we're talking about when we talk about the 10 codes. So if something comes up for you and we say, would you put that in the chat? It would be great if you participate. You'll get a lot more out of it by participating. Now, we'd like to share just a little bit of our background so you know who's talking to you today, in case you don't know us. I'm Andrea Susan Glass, of course, a nonfiction book coach, and I'm a university instructor. I am hosting this webinar because I've been where you might be, which is maybe stuck writing your book. But now I'm a two-time best-selling author. But I was stuck for many years. I floundered from one job to the next, even though I always knew I would love a career in writing. But my educational path took a different turn. And we have another slide to show you about that. When I self-published a book years ago, I realized that I wasn't skilled at selling books. Did you guys ever think about that? You write a book, but somebody's got to sell it. So I decided to become a ghostwriter. And after years of writing books for others, I knew it was finally time to write my own book. So while taking a workshop on creating an online course, my teacher told me that if I wanted to teach a course on writing books, I had to be a best-selling author. And that's what motivated me to finally write my first book. Now, I don't know if something's pushing you to do it, but if not, think about hard and fast if that's what you want to do. What I did is I created some accountability partners. I had people who helped me stay on track. And in 2021, I published my first 2 books. Now, I just want to tell you that if I had coaches like Trevor and me to help me, or a program like the one we're going to talk to you about today, I might have written my books a little bit sooner. But I had to overcome my own codes, CODE, which we'll tell you about soon, to reach my dream of becoming a best-selling author.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrea. Thank you for sharing that. And so just to let you all know a little bit about me. So I'm Trevor Singleton. I'm an accountability coach and the author of the soon-to-be-published The Doorways of Life. Now, I also struggled with getting into that mindset and habit of writing. So numerous titles would come to me, but not the process of, pen to paper, words to sentences. So I began to put posts on some platforms and I started to engage people via video. Now, as I became more diligent, I started a thing called the Doorway series. Now, at first I had a few ideas, but ultimately it ended up in 14 different videos. So as I talked it over with my coach, And yes, just to let you know, though we're coaches, I have a few coaches, in fact. One of my coaches, we came up with the idea of transcribing the videos and putting them into a book. I was amazed that after I had all that, I had a table of contents and a subject matter. As I added to it, the words started to flow and I had a foundation to build on. Well, now I'm days away from being a published author, from idea in print to an actual book that you can buy online.
That is so true. And I have watched Trevor's process, and it's really been amazing to see how he's come along. But now it's your turn to write your book. So I want to know if you're ready. Put a yes in the chat if you're ready to write your book.
All right. Well, I know I'm ready to write.
Oh, yes, you are. So we're going to move through to the codes today. We want to help you solve the most common reasons stopping you from writing a book. And I coined the word codes to stand for challenges, obstacles, distractions, and excuses. So now you know what the codes are. These are the challenges and the obstacles and distractions and excuses we come across most often when we work with authors. Do any of these sound familiar to you? Well, let's get moving through them and we'll see what comes up for you.
Excellent. So here's a list of the codes we'll unpack today. On number one, it's not knowing how to get started. On number two, self-doubt, lack of self-confidence. Number three, analysis paralysis, procrastination. On number four, lack of support, accountability. Number five, distractions, discipline, staying focused. Number six, not enough time, higher priorities. Number seven, fears, loss of the familiar. 8, too few or too many ideas, getting organized. Number 9, overwhelm and so many details to learn. And number 10, perfectionism.
Well, I wonder if you've seen yourself in any of those. I know I have. So let's start with code number 1, not knowing how to get started. Look, you've never written a book before, so you don't know the process. That's why it's a challenge to get started. You may not be clear about all the aspects of your code. So if this feels like your code, put a number 1 in the chat. Now we want to talk about some solutions. As a book coach, I work with aspiring authors to clarify 5 specific areas of their book. And when you get that clarity, it's much easier to know how to start. This is what I call the author aspiration or the author goal, the reader result, or what you want the reader to get, the best buyer, who's your ideal audience, the smart subject, that's the best topic, and the overall objective. Where are you going with this? One book, many books? Once you have clarity in these 5 areas, you will have an easier time to get going, I can assure you. Now, next, you want to educate yourself about the writing process. How do you get from the idea to getting it on the page, to getting it published? What I did is I looked for the best resources I could find in all different areas. And then if you need additional support, you can always work with a coach like Trevor or me. That's what we're here for. I'll tell you about one of my clients who suffered from this code. She had never written a book before and she had no idea how to begin. So she reached out to me to help her coach me. This is what she said. Andrea, I am so grateful I found you. I learned a lot from you during our coaching sessions. I don't think you realize the extent to which you set me up for success. You established a very strong foundation for me for a successful book. And Sylvia Molina, author of Supportive Accountability, is now a best-selling author.
Excellent. And that's a good one. So next we're going to go to code number 2, which is self-doubt and lack of confidence. Now, this code takes different forms. Now, for instance, you may think that since you've never had anything published, you're not a good enough writer. You may also believe that since you're not a well-known expert in your field, no one will take you seriously as an author. And you might also lack confidence in your topic and just don't know what to write about. And you may have a little bit low confidence when it comes to marketing, since you've never sold a product. Now, if this sounds like something familiar to you, let's put a 2 in the chat. All right, so let's talk about some solutions here. So that's a lot that I've just covered in regards to self-doubt and lack of confidence. But we get that. As first-time authors, this game is all new to you. So here are some solutions. Now, if you feel you're not a good enough writer, what you can do is you can get into a class or a group facilitated by a book coach. That way you'll get feedback and critique from others real time. This is one of the best ways to improve your writing. You don't want to let not being an expert in your field keep you from writing your book. Here's why. Because once you write your book, you'll automatically become known as an expert. That's what a book will do for you. As for lack of confidence in your topic or marketing, you can read Andrea's 2 books here. She's got 2 books. And coincidentally, they're a bonus to you when you join our program. Now, your confidence in your topic will come from your research. As your marketing also, that'll develop as you build your presence online and off. Remember, confidence grows from doing, not before.
Yes, that's what I always tell people. Nobody is born with confidence. You just have to get out there and start building it as you go. So let's work on code number 3, analysis paralysis, procrastination. Does this sound like you? You get stuck doing research, whether it's checking the competition or you're examining keywords? Or do you find yourself going down the Amazon or the YouTube black holes? I know I do. I could stay on Amazon and YouTube all day, especially YouTube. Love it. Now, you have to do a little research for your book. Sometimes you do. And then you're going to start writing. Sure, that's what you say. But procrastination can be an outcome of overanalyzing all the facts before you write. Now, I do some research, but I don't let that stop me from writing. Now, if you feel like this is your code, put a number 3 in the chat.
Oh, Andrea, you want to give people a few seconds for those procrastinators that want to put the 3 in? I'll start.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we got to wait for those procrastinators. Okay. Now, as far as solutions, we know that you might have to do some research. And I think it's important to check your competition, look at your unique rich, check out keywords, but don't get lost in there. Use surveys, do interviews, check out Amazon. I like to set specific goals and the time period. Let's say you turn on your clock timer on your phone, say, I'm going to do research for 1 hour. But don't put off writing until all your research is complete. Sometimes there'll be parts of your book that will come up where you'll need to do the research, but keep flowing with your writing. Now, as far as procrastination, there are a lot of reasons that people have procrastination. Sometimes it's a symptom of bad habits and possibly not being fully committed to writing your book. So you put it off, but you're not exactly sure why. See, some of the codes that you're learning about today may be the cause of your procrastination. So as we unpack these codes, start looking at which ones may be underneath procrastination. Because saying because you procrastinate, that's on the surface. But beneath that, there are some of these codes that are actually stopping you.
That's a good point, Andrea. One of the things that has helped me is that being able to have somebody accountable, someone that you can bounce ideas off of, someone that'll hold your feet to the fire. And that's what we're talking about here. So let's move on to code number 4, which is lack of support and accountability. Now, here's a question. Do those around you support your goal of writing a book? See, lack of support can also mean that you don't have the best situation in which to write. Now, whether it's location or other factors. And lack of support can mean that, when you're stuck, you don't have resources to turn to when you have questions about the process. Lastly, you have no accountability to keep you on track. Now, if this is your code, just put a 4 in the chat. So now, let's talk about solutions. Because here, lack of support and accountability, we've heard that. Now, if you have that lack of support from people around you, this is something that we suggest. Pull them aside and take the time to explain to them how committed you are to writing your book, why it's so important to you. Share what you're writing about so they can be more invested. That way you get buy-in. Then once you have that buy-in and you explain it to them, then you can ask them to honor your writing time and not interrupt except for emergencies. Now, as for needing ideas or guidance, you have several options. The short fix: read some blogs and ebooks where you can glean answers to some of your questions. Or for more in-depth support, work with a book coach like Andrea or an accountability coach like myself. What we do is we offer structure and support to keep you focused and on track to write during your scheduled times. Now here's a testimonial from a fellow entrepreneur and a friend about the importance of support and accountability with working with a coach. It says, Trevor has an amazing way of helping people and supporting them. He makes you feel at ease and then helps you figure out what's holding you back and how to fix it. It's from James Fudo, who's president of JVF Solutions Web Design.
All right, on to code number 5. Now I have to say this next code is a very prevalent one. Distractions, discipline, staying focused. Among all the codes, I think this is the most common because it's a struggle for first-time authors to have the self-control to minimize or ignore the distractions and stay focused. You have to learn to say no. You have to turn off distractions like your phone or emails and stick to what you say you're going to do. Having the discipline to sit and write when you've scheduled it. For example, if you set up the times that you want to write, which we suggest you do. And staying focused, even when it gets hard, even when the words are not coming, you have to sit through that. You have to find ways to get through that. If you think that having that lack of discipline or staying focused or distractions is your code, put a number 5 in the chat. I expect to see a lot of you doing that one.
Well, it could be
I know, I can't stand it when the email bell rings. I got to see who it is, So the solutions, here are some solutions for this particular code. One of the first steps I feel that's very important is to identify the culprits. This goes back to what I said earlier about figuring out which codes are the ones that are stopping you. When you identify them up front, like even before you start to write your book, you figure out a way you're going to deal with them. So for example, if it's family or friends interrupting your writing time, as Trevor said previously, you tell them that's not okay. You want their support. What Trevor and I do is we make appointments with ourselves. If you keep a calendar, whether it's a hand calendar or it's Google Calendar, I use Outlook Calendar, put your writing time into the calendar as if you're making an appointment with yourself. And you have to make appointments with yourself as important as keeping appointments with other people. Sometimes we don't do that. Now, to minimize the digital distractions like phones, emails, and websites, it's easy to mute your phone or your computer when you're writing. When the reason that you're writing your book, what I call your big why, is powerful enough to motivate you to sit there and write and complete your book, I think it will override the discipline that you need. Because if you're really wanting to do this, if you have a strong reason, this book means a lot to you, then you will develop that discipline. And then again, like we said earlier, also consider having someone hold you accountable to the times that you're writing, such as an accountability coach. But Trevor and I have always kept each other accountable, and I've had other accountability partners over the years, and it makes a huge difference.
You're right, MJ. It definitely does. You know, when your why is big enough and you have someone to share that with, then you're able to conquer that goal and go from idea to print. All right, so now let's go to number 6, halfway there. So number 6, not enough time, higher priorities. All right, now, Andrew and I, we can understand if you're working full-time or you have other full-time commitments. And we know, so that makes your time limited for writing a book. However, we've heard retirees who have the same complaint. Writing a book may not be high enough on your priority, so you use the excuse of time. I've been. So if this is your code, go ahead put a 6 in the chat. Right? This was my code, so you'll see me. There's my 6. Right? Okay, so don't be afraid. This is a safe environment. All right, so when it comes to this, all these are valid codes. And thank you so much. Continue to put in your 6s for those who this applies to. These are valid codes. Now, the truth is this, and this is a truth that I had to come to as well. The truth is you don't find the time to write. You make the time. With all these codes, you need to be honest with yourself to find out what's stopping you from moving forward. Now, if you think about it, now we all have the same 24 hours in a day, regardless of full-time, part-time, no time, same 24 hours. Yet if you look at all the books online and in the bookstore, now all those authors had other time commitments, but they took the time to write a book and maybe more than one. Now, we all have different activities we do, about 8 to 14 hours a day. Now, those activities, they're based on different desires and sense of urgency. Question becomes, how can you move your dream to write a book higher on your priority list? Here's one idea. All right, get ready, buckle up. One idea is to create a time log for 1 week. That's right, so everything that you're doing, you're writing down. Watching TV, scrolling, on Netflix, taking a walk, whatever it is, do it for a week. Why? This will open your eyes to see what you really prioritize. Once you really see that, then you can edit and adjust your time and make time to write. You can establish a regular writing schedule. Like, for example, you could do Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and make that a habit. Then you find someone that's your accountability partner, another writer or a coach, like one of us, because it takes time to build a new habit. So you need to stay consistent with your writing time. Now, here are some numbers here. Not too much math, but we'll jump into here. Now, do you know that if you write 1,000 words at each sitting, 4 days a week, that's 4,000 words a week. Now, in only 8 weeks, 8 times 4,000, you'll have a 32,000 word book, which is plenty for your first book. Time yourself. See how long it takes you to write or even dictate 1,000 words. Just to let you know, a lot of my book was dictated. So you have the talk to text, the talk there. You can dictate a lot of that. Once you get that down, you'll build the confidence, and lo and behold, there's your book.
You know, it's really interesting. One of my clients, Andrew, is on the call, and the first time we dictated with his book, he dictated 10,000 words in 1 hour. Can you believe that? If you wanted a 50,000 word book, it would only take you 5 hours. But of course, you'd have to do a lot of editing. But the truth is that you can use that time to write your book, but you just have to set it aside.
Exactly.
Make it a priority. That's really where we put our time. It's our priorities. So let's go on to code number 7. This one is fears and loss of the familiar. Do any of these sound like you? Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of no book sales. That's one of mine. Loss of the familiar. Think about it. Do you have any fears that may be stopping you? If you think so, then put a number 7 in the chat. Or if you're afraid to put it in there, nobody's looking. Sometimes we don't even know what we're afraid of, but sometimes fear is an underlying code that is keeping you from moving forward. Some people have called fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. And what I call that is a projection into the future of something that hasn't happened. Sometimes we fear something that hasn't happened. If I'm fearing failure, I haven't done it yet. So how can I know if I'm going to fail or if I'm going to succeed? Or how do I know if I'm going to sell books? This is all projections into the future. Now, what I suggest is changing your perspective and seeing failure as a learning opportunity and success perhaps as a new experience. You might even like it. See, for years, I didn't write because I thought no one would buy my books. Yet now I'm a 2-time best-selling author. I did work at it, but I had to overcome that code, and I had to not let fear stop me. See, I wanted to write a book so much, I wanted to have published books so much that I just, sort of looked fear in the face. What do they say? There's a book, feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's pretty much what you have to do. You can also look back at past successes and remember how great you felt when you succeeded at something. And I have to tell you that when you see your book for the first time on Amazon, you will get a feeling like nothing you could even imagine. That is the greatest feeling of success. If you fear no one will buy your book or get bad reviews, you have to realize that you can control some of it, but not all of it. What I suggest is do your best. Write a great book. Learn how to market it. It's something that's a learnable skill. And then when you start seeing the 5-star reviews showing up, you're going to be really excited. I get a few 1-star and 2-star ratings. They're not reviews. And those are people who are just kind of mean because they don't even say what they liked or didn't like about the book. So you don't have control over that. Now, loss of the familiar is about stepping out of your comfort zone. And we know writing the first book that you've ever written is definitely stepping out of your comfort zone. But we're trying to make it a little bit more comfortable for you today by giving you some input onto how you can move forward with writing your book. Trevor and I would love to help turn your fears into a learning experience, especially through the upcoming program that we're going to talk about. So we suggest you take an honest look at your fears. See if they're real or if you're just projecting them into the future.
No, that's a good point. And as someone said, there's that fear of success. How you have to look at is that there are people that are out there that need your book, that actually for them to walk through their next level, they're waiting for you. So when you begin to reframe that, which is what we help you to do, reframe your perspective, change your lens, then that is something, instead of looking at it as a fear of success, we turn that fear into faith. And so you're looking at faith into writing your book, and that book is the next step to unlocking someone's next potential. So we work with you on that. So thank you so much for talking on that, Andrea. So let's go to number 8. So number 8 here, code number 8 is too few or too many ideas and getting organized. So you either have a lack, so here's number 8. You either have a lack of content and ideas or too much content. Now, not enough, sometimes you wonder where you're going to find it. Now, too much, and you're still figuring out what to include. Now, additionally, when you start to either create ideas from thoughts or gather them from existing content, sometimes you get stuck getting organized and creating structure. And this is a common complaint among many aspiring authors. If this is your code, put it 8, and I see we already have an 8 that's in there. Thank you. Put an 8 right in the chat. Looks like we're hitting on some things. And thank you. We want to even thank you all for sharing. Thank you. This is a great community. So let's go. Solution for this. Now, if you have too little material, that's fine. What you're doing is, this is just a start. You'll have many areas where you can find content. One of the things we suggest is when you start, the first thing you want to do is drain your brain. What we mean by draining your brain means take the time, jot down all your ideas that come to you about a book. Now, these ideas could be, you could jot them down in a notebook, or you could jot them down on an easel, something where you can take it up, put it on an easel, put it on a wall, put it around you. So that way you get all your ideas out, everything's there. Because once you can see it, you can organize it. You can also gather content from past writings you may have done, such as some articles, social media posts, some website content, some blog posts. And from there, you can also do research that stimulates original ideas. Now, if you're paralyzed because you have too much material, you'll be able to pare that down after you create your table of contents. So this is where we go. The best way to get organized and create structure, as I said before here, is to first create an outline. Then next step, Clean it up and you'll produce a table of contents. Place bullet points under each chapter heading. Now, once your chapter structure is semi-firm, and we say semi-firm because it may change a few times, you can start placing content into the appropriate chapters. And then before you know it, the table of contents becomes your placeholder in which to build each chapter.
That's so true. Having structure when you're first writing a book is definitely a challenge for many new authors. And let's go on to code number 9. We're getting down there. Overwhelm, so many details to learn. And boy, do we know that. You've never written a book, you don't know the process, you don't know how to go from idea to Amazon. And you start thinking, how did all those authors write all those books and figure it out? I mean, I do that all the time. How did they learn everything you need to know? You have to first write the book, then you have to get an editor, then you have to get a cover design, then you have to have it formatted, then you have to publish it, then you have to market it. Wow, that's a lot of details to learn and a lot of people to find, contractors who are going to help you. If this feels like a possible code for you, put a number 9 in the chat. So let's offer a few solutions here. The first thing I want to say is that you can learn this. Learning the process of writing a book and publishing a book is not something we're born with. It's a learned skill. And you learn it because you're really invested in it. You want to learn how to get there. So you study and you read and you take classes and you work with coaches. Look, I was a good writer. I'd been ghostwriting and copywriting for many years, but I'd never written my own book and I never published it. So I had this strong drive to become a published author. And I just decided I would go out there. I found resources, I found blog posts, I found books, I found seminars, webinars, everything that I needed. And I did work with some coaches as well. You'll be a student for a while and you'll become more familiar with the publishing journey. As coaches, Trevor and I would love to help you with any of these details to guide you to the best solution. And that's going to be based on what you need and what your preferences are and the amount of time you have to put into this. So we want you to know that we do have a program that we will tell you about shortly, in which we can help you overcome your codes and get your book published.
So much. Thank you so much for that. And she's right on that. We work with you and we work with you on your needs. We work with you in your time. What are the areas you do well and what are the areas that you need help with? All that, working with the coach, and we help you to overcome that code. So now we're on the last one and we're at the home stretch, perfectionism. Now, some people, some of us, I'll say some of us have a bit of perfectionism in some area or another. Now, for example, you may be a perfectionist at keeping your house neat and clean. I laugh because that's not my area, but that's just an example. But sometimes you may not take care of your yard. You might be a perfectionist in balancing your time with your work schedule. Now, that's a good trait when it comes to your writing schedule. However, it's not a good trait when you're so hard on yourself, you don't settle for anything less than perfect. Perfectionism, when it applies to writing a book, not a good idea. As a matter of fact, it is near impossible. I mean, have you ever read a book from a big time publisher and found a few errors? We have. Now, if this is your code, if you can relate to this, put a 10 in the chat. If you have some perfectionism and you're waiting, you're saying, okay, I can't do this, I can't write, it has to be the perfect time, you know, it has to be, everything has to be lined up just right, put that 10 in there. All right. So now, I haven't seen any 10s, but we're going to give you some solutions for those that can relate. Now, our advice to you, it's very deep. Everyone ready? Give it up. No one is perfect. No one. You know, as we say earlier, you learn from your mistakes, and that's how you grow. Now, if you aim to be perfect in anything and all things, you'll be disappointed. It's fine to have some expectations. Now, often we do the work and we have the mindset, we can meet our expectations. So you want to meet expectations as best as you can. You're not looking for perfectionism. Perfect means there's no mistake. When you change the definition of perfect, meaning to mature or perfecting, always maturing, then your lens change, your perspective changes. Now, to keep up with some of the standards of what we call indie publishing, which is the current term for self-publishing, in regards to your book, you want to have a thoroughly edited book, an attractive cover, and clean format. Those three. Now, but your editor, cover designer, and formatter, they're not perfect. So you may find some errors when you get everything back, but that's great that you found them because they can be fixed. The big thing we want to emphasize here, and I'll say, is that we want you to aim for excellence over perfection, right? Let me say that again, aim for excellence over perfection. See, our concern about perfectionist tendencies is that they could be stopping you from starting to write your book or even completing your book. So work with a book coach, get an accountability partner, do your best to get your book in the best shape possible with some good support, and then, as we heard before, let it go. Andrea, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I have to say that we've covered some amazing codes, and some of these will apply to you and some of them won't. But if you learn what they are before you start writing your book, you'll be able to handle them. And that's why I wanted to offer you some solutions. So if you have seen yourself in one or the other, we have a lot of suggestions, but Trevor and I have found our ways to overcome them. And we decided that we wanted to help as many aspiring authors as possible to overcome them too, because we know that at least one of these codes is stopping you from writing your book. It stopped us and it stopped the other coaches, the clients that we work with. So we wanted to come up with a way to utilize each of our skills, me as a book coach and best-selling author, and Trevor as an accountability coach and future best-selling author. And we wanted to see how we could help new authors, set them on a strategic path from the beginning to the finish line. To combine our talents, we came up with a program that I haven't seen anything like that before. And both of us have taken a lot of programs and courses. Yet I feel that this one's very unique because it's customized to each participant. This is not a group program. This is a program where we work individually with you. And I know once people find out about this, that we're going to have a waiting list for first-time authors who are ready to start writing their books, but have been stuck and struggling. Now, we call our program your Fabulous First Book Coaching Program. And we want to tell you about it to see if this could be a solution to your situation. Whether you're stuck at the beginning or the middle of the process, or you just need some guidance and accountability at any point on your writing and publishing journey.
All right. So now the question comes, who is this program for? So if you're an aspiring nonfiction author who feels called to write a book, yet you're not sure where to start, this program is for you. If you're an expert in your field and would like to share your expertise and experience with a wider audience, but you feel overwhelmed by the process, this program is for you. Now, if you're an entrepreneur service provider such as a coach or a speaker, a financial planner, and you can stand out from your competition and attract clients with a book, but you can't seem to find the time to write, this program here, this is for you. Whether your book is self-help or how-to, spiritual, about health or technical, this program is for you.
Now, we want to tell you a little bit what the program is about. This is an 8-week program where you'll work with me as a book coach, one-on-one through several Zoom calls. And you'll work with Trevor as your accountability coach for regular support throughout the program. During the Zoom calls, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a book synopsis so we know exactly what your book is about. We're going to do our best to come up with a title for your book. We're going to create your table of contents. And then I'm going to teach you how to create a book structure and a chapter structure. And most important, we're going to set up your writing schedule, which Trevor will keep you accountable with. And we're going to set up the timeline so we have an idea of about how long we think it's going to take from when you start writing to when you're going to get published. As your accountability coach, Trevor will check in with you on the days that you're scheduled to write. And he wants to keep you on task, encourage you, be there for you, and help you review the milestones. Wow, I finished chapter 1. Yay, let's celebrate. Wow, I finished chapter 2, and so on. You'll have different milestones along the way. You develop a mindset that focuses on sticking with your commitment. As the codes show up, and you know the codes will show up, but now you know how to handle them. You'll receive personalized coaching from both of us, and you'll be able to have any question answered when we have our monthly Q&A Zoom calls.
But wait, there's more. We also have some bonus gifts for you. PDF copies of Andrea's 2 best-selling books. 1, your fabulous first book, How to Write with Clarity, Confidence, and Connection. And 2, my fabulous first book, a workbook companion to your fabulous first book. Now, these valuable tools will complement our support as you start to write your first book. Now, to summarize, by the end of the 8 weeks, you'll have a roadmap to finishing your book that includes a clear synopsis, your book title, your chapter outline and table of contents, your book and chapter structures, your regular writing schedule, a timeline for the writing and publishing journey, and much of your book written. Now, it is possible for you to finish your book in those 8 weeks. So if you're dictating your book with at least, let's say 5,000 words per hour. So a 50,000 word book, 5,000 words per hour, that takes about 10 hours. Now, you could accomplish that in a few weeks. What you do is with the rest of the 8 weeks of the program, we use that to refine and edit your book. However, remember, it is up to you and how much time you put into this. So of course, we can't make promises, but as we work together though, you'll feel more confident about writing and publishing your book with our ongoing support. And you'll be excited that when your book will open doors to many opportunities. It'll help you with expanding your credibility, your visibility, as well as your profitability. A book can get you invitations to be interviewed on podcasts, to teach workshops, and to speak on your topic. You'll attract new clients to your business, and that'll be a key goal for you. So that's what a book can do for you. Andrea.
We are looking for 10 aspiring nonfiction authors ready to write their book. And we want you to know your big why. Why do you want to write it? Yet you need guidance and accountability to realize your goal of being a best-selling author or being a published author. We suggest that you be committed to the process and ready to do whatever is necessary to follow with us in the program. Now, the full value of our program, adding up everything we offer, is $34.97. But we'd like to give people who are just starting out a better price, and that's $19.97. But since this is a fledgling program, brand new program, and we're very excited to start it, we're offering a 50% discount for the first 10 who sign up by September 30th. So that means you'll only pay $9.97 for both of us for 8 full weeks. We are giving you 100% of our support for you to get your book written and published this year. Hopefully we can get it done this year if you sign up by September 30th. Let me ask you this question. Would you like to dissolve whatever has been standing in your way so you can finally write your best-selling book? I bet you do. And we encourage you to sign up now. Like I said, we only have room for 10 people at the 50% off. We want to thank you so much for being here today, for taking the time to listening to me and Trevor and sharing what we've learned about writing your first book. So if you're ready to get that kind of personal support you need, please sign up for your fabulous first book coaching program. Here's the sign up link at bookcoachingprograms.com. Let's see the next slide. We have our email address at bookcoachingprograms@gmail.com if you have any questions after the webinar. And if you'd like to set up a meeting with me just to talk about it before you sign up, that's my calendar link at Calendly. Wow, that was a lot of fun. And now we're going to take a look in the chat. What do you think, Trevor?
Yep, that's gonna be good. So what we're gonna do is let's stop the recording and we're gonna stop the share. So